Zach Calzada transferring to Kentucky from Incarnate Word. This is going to be his fourth school, but we'll see if Mark Stoops can kind of reinvigorate this Kentucky offense, bringing in one of the more sought-after quarterbacks in the transfer portal this offseason. Taking a look at the schedule, though, it's going to be a tough one. The SEC schedule pretty rough with Ole Miss, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Tennessee. Auburn's supposed to be better. Florida's really tough. Vanderbilt's going to be good. And you also get a road trip to Louisville in your rivalry game. This is one of the worst schedules I've seen so far. So it's going to be a 7.5 out of 10 on the difficulty meter, even though they got 7 games at home this year.
Starting it off facing Toledo, the Rockets returning Tucker Gleason as their starting quarterback after that incredible, what was it, 6 overtime game against Pitt in their bowl game, which they did come out on top. Uh, Toledo's going to be a solid team, especially with this Kentucky team. Likely not going to be that good, but still, Kentucky played in several close games last year. Did beat Ole Miss on the road and was 1 point away from tying against Georgia at home. So Kentucky still has potential, especially with their home field advantage. So we're going to say a 75% chance for them to beat Toledo, but that's a game to watch out for early on that could really tell us what's going to happen with this Wildcats team for the remainder of the season. Following week against that Ole Miss team that they did beat on the road last year. Now it's at home, and Ole Miss is losing a lot. Particularly, Jackson Dart is out at the starting quarterback position. They're losing a couple other key guys, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. But Austin Simmons is expected to take over the starting quarterback position, a lot of hype surrounding him at a very young age and hoping to really just keep it steady, keep the consistency that Jackson Dart brought this Ole Miss team. And just with how Kentucky has been in the last couple of years, even though they did get that win over Ole Miss, and now it's at home, I still think that this Ole Miss team is going to be the better team overall. I think Kentucky is just losing too many people on the defensive end that really were able to make those close games possible. So a 20% chance for this Wildcats team against Ole Miss. Following week against Eastern Michigan, this one it could be 100% chance here because Kentucky is going to be the more talented team on paper, but Eastern Michigan last year did only lose by 1 point to Toledo, and I know transitive property doesn't really work, especially with Eastern Michigan losing their starting quarterback, but Eastern Michigan will have the slightest of chances to beat Kentucky, even if it is at home for the Wildcats at a 95% chance, but this is essentially going to be a win for the Wildcats here.
After their first bye week, going on the road for back-to-back games. First one, South Carolina. And South Carolina, one of the more impressive teams last season, did go 9-3, just missing out on the college football playoffs. Got a lot returning for 2025 and should be a very competitive team once again. I just don't see Kentucky being competitive at all in this game. Only a 15% chance for the Wildcats. Then it's on the road to face Georgia. This, believe it or not, was a 1 point game last season. And after that was really when Kentucky fell apart. I don't see them being able to compete with Georgia this year. The Bulldogs might not be quite as good as they usually are, but it's just there's such a big talent gap here. I really can't see Kentucky making this one close back-to-back seasons. Maybe they'll surprise me, but I think Georgia wins either way. So only a 10% chance in this one. Then the difficult schedule continues with going back at home, a game against Texas. Arch Manning going to be starting full time for the Longhorns now. And I think Texas is going to be a really solid team once again. They're one of the early favorites to win the national championship. And just, I mean, overall, again, Kentucky is way overmatched in this game. This is a brutal stretch that they've got going on here. Next up is Tennessee. and Nico has entered the transfer portal. So Tennessee's going to look very different on the offensive side of the ball next season. Probably not going to be as good as they were last year when they made the college football playoffs, but I do still think they're going to be better than Kentucky. Only a 20% chance in this game. Then it's a road trip to Auburn, who a lot of people are very high on for 2025. I've seen some predictions that Auburn could get maybe up to 9 wins. I don't see that personally, but I do think that they'll be improved. And overall, a very solid team. Again, I just don't see Kentucky being able to win this game, especially because it's on the road. And then back at home to face the Florida Gators, another team that we are very high on, just re-emphasizing how difficult this schedule is. DJ Lagway is one of our favorite quarterbacks for 2025. I think he's going to have a really, really good year. And I mean, this is just such a tough game for Kentucky, even though it's at home. Only a 15% chance for the Wildcats in this one.
After that, though, they have a pretty easy game following that Florida game. They'll be back home against the Tennessee Tech. I don't even know what Tennessee Tech's mascot is, but 100% chance here for the Wildcats to get the win. Then they finished the season with two road games in a row, starting off with a road trip to Vandy. Diego Pavia returning as the starting quarterback after their miracle season, but still only managed to finish about 500. But this Vandy team is looking like they're going to make some steps forward. Returning Diego Pavia is a huge boost to this team. He was the core of their offense last year and is most likely going to be the core once again. And I just think overall Vandy is going to be the more talented team because after that season, now the brand's starting to go up a little bit. Now they're actually going to get a couple big recruits and have a good selling point in the transfer portal. So I think Vandy is going to be the better team here. 20% chance for the Wildcats to get the win. And then they have their in-state rivalry game against the Louisville Cardinals. Louisville is honestly one of the hottest teams in college football right now. They've been a very solid team the last few years, including beating Clemson on the road last year. They're looking to take control of the ACC, and with the way some of the ACC is looking right now, I wouldn't be shocked if this team finishes second in the ACC behind a team like Clemson. So that Louisville Clemson game that they have is going to be a huge game to watch out for. Um, Biggest thing is that Tyler Shuff is off to the NFL, and they're bringing in Miller Moss from USC to take over the starting quarterback position. I think he's going to do fine. He had a couple of questions at USC, particularly with his turnovers, but I think overall Miller Moss is going to be the better quarterback between him and Kentucky's quarterback. So 25% chance here. It's only going to be a little bit higher than the Vandy one because it is a rivalry game. Games, weird stuff tends to happen. So who knows what could happen here, but Louisville should be the better team. 25% chance for Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at this schedule, I see 3-9, honestly, and I can't find another game that they win other than Toledo, Eastern Michigan, and Tennessee Tech. I guess it's possible that they pull off a crazy upset in the SEC, but I mean, who's the worst SEC team that they face? Is it Tennessee or Auburn on the road? Neither of those are going to be easy, even though Tennessee just lost Nico.
I would say the only other SEC game that they maybe stand a chance in is that Ole Miss game because they beat them on the road last year when they were arguably a better team than they are now. And now it's coming back home with all of those pieces missing. It really just depends on how Austin Simmons plays for Ole Miss, especially with it being that early on in the season. So maybe that's like their one SEC win. But yeah, like you said, I don't see this team making a bowl game by any means. They would need so much to go right for them and so much to go wrong for every other team on their schedule. it's a gauntlet of a schedule. In between those two bye weeks on the road with South Carolina and Georgia, that's gonna be horrible. And then just to come back and play against Texas, Tennessee on the road at Auburn and Florida, this is a nightmare schedule for this Kentucky team that is having to rebuild from an already bad team.
Yeah, I really can't see any more than 4 wins because one upset's already hard enough to predict. But anyways, the record last year was 4-8. Projected record for this year going to be 4.3 wins. So it does favor them getting an upset somewhere. But I mean, we can't pick that game out right now. You'll have to come back later in the off season once we've seen a little bit more from the spring games and the transfer portal window is closed and such. But right now, we're going to go with 3-9 for Kentucky. Unfortunately, no wins in the SEC. However, this is pretty different from the Vegas over/under. They are favoring the over 4.5. So Vegas thinks that Kentucky can get to within 1 win of a bowl game. Maybe we're missing something. Again, like I said, we'll check out the spring game and see how things go. And maybe we're underrating Kentucky a little bit. But for right now, our way too early prediction is 3-9. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in our next video.